Amistad and HarperAudio present Toni at Random, the iconic writer's legendary editorship, by Dana A. Williams, read by Deanna Anthony. A note before we begin. Don't forget to download the accompanying enhancement PDF from your audiobook provider. It contains the author's acknowledgments and a list of titles edited by Toni Morrison. Chapter 1. We're All We Got. A few minutes before 10 a.m. on Saturday, April 24th, 1976, conference attendees hurried to their seats in the School of Social Work auditorium at Howard University in anticipation of the final panel of the Second National Conference of Afro-American Writers. The conference, which was organized by the Institute for the Arts and Humanities, IAH, under the direction of the incomparable poetry scholar Stephen E. Henderson, brought together virtually all the major Black writers and critics for the second time in 2 years to discuss the state and future of Black writing in the United States. Themed Beyond Survival, 200 Years of Black Literature, 1776 through 1976, a nod to America's bicentennial, the conference had one outlier to its list of standing panels on fiction, nonfiction, poetry, drama, literature for young people, and screenwriting. By popular demand, the organizers added a panel on publishing. Hakeem Matabuti, a longtime IAH staff member, opened the session with a tribute to fellow poet and publisher Dudley Randall, who had just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of his Broadside Press, a stalwart of Black publishing. Joining Randall on the panel were poet and publisher Amos Zubolton, founder of the newly established Energy Black South Press, and a former IAH staffer, Charles Harris, the executive director of Howard University Press, and former Doubleday and Random House editor, and the panel's moderator, Carol Parks, former managing editor of Black World, which, until a few weeks prior when publication ceased abruptly, had been the most influential Black literary magazine there was. But the room was not filled to near capacity on that unseasonably hot day in late April just to hear from Randall, Zubolton, or Harris. Attendees were most anxious to hear from the woman whose presence commanded the room almost effortlessly, Toni Morrison, Random House senior editor and author of The Bluest Eye and Sula. As Parks offered introductions of the panelists from the podium, Morrison seemed completely unfazed by the fact that she was the only woman at a speaker's table of men. No doubt, everyone noticed the limited interaction between the panelists as they waited for the session to begin. The room felt almost sterile, like there were unspoken truths that made the assemblage of these colleagues awkward or potentially combustible instead of logical and instructive. Perhaps out of nervousness about a tense written exchange she'd had with Morrison previously about who discovered the writer Henry Dumas, Parks, in her introduction of Morrison, stated that Morrison had earned an M.A. from Cornell in 1955 and an undergraduate degree from Howard in 1973. As the crowd's whisperings became louder in response to the error, Morrison flashed her characteristically bright smile and feigned a look of self-satisfaction at the impossible achievement. She leaned her head to the side toward Zubolton, who was seated next to her, winked her eye at him, and nodded as if to say, "I'm that good." Parks, feeling like a voyeur who had not been let in on a joke, went silent to try to read the room, which now muttered irrepressibly. Morrison sensed the need to come to her rescue. "You got the years wrong, Carol. You said I graduated from Howard in 1973. The room erupted in laughter, thankful for the release valve. Because she decided it would, the room now felt momentous, yet light. Despite Parks' blunder, she was spot on in her introduction of Morrison as one of the few people who had earned the distinction of being a capable teacher, writer, and editor. Parks had worked as an editorial assistant at Doubleday Publishing Company in the 1960s, so she knew firsthand how rare it was for a Black person, a Black woman no less, to hold a senior editor position at a major
Sample complete. Ready to continue?